The all-new 100.3 The Beat, throwback hip-hop and R&B. This is the all-new Community Connections. I'm your host, Jade Harrell, keeping you connected to our community. Okay, the time is fast approaching again. It is just about time for our annual all-white I'm a Survivor affair that we can't wait to enjoy with Orlando Watson coming back into the house. Pretty boy joining us in the studio. Hey, welcome back. Still surviving. Fourth annual. This has been a tremendous event that has had major impact. We are all looking forward to it this year.
Yeah, so it's actually the fifth year of the foundation, but it's the fourth annual benefit.
For the Gala.
Yeah. And that's because last year we canceled it. It would have happened right around the time Mike Brown was
Exactly.
killed. So
and I do recall there was, and so there is some synergy there though with awareness and actually penetrating some of the other ills that are happening in our community now. The fact that you could rally us in an awareness event about breast cancer, also very well timed with other areas in our community and families.
Yeah. You know, I'm an activist by nature, you know what I mean? So, and I was real involved in Ferguson and the whole movement, but it's a little bit different, you know, when you're talking about health, because most people don't want to talk about their health, especially young people.
Sure.
So, you know, my core demo really is people 40 and under, although we got folks that are in the 50s and 60s that come out to the event. But we all know that, you know, people under 40, especially men, think they're Superman. So, like I did before I got sick. You know, I didn't go to the doctor because I felt fine. It wasn't until I didn't feel fine that I went to the doctor.
Which is typically the case for us.
Right. Where women at least go in, you know, once a year and get a checkup or something. Men will skip. I mean, I'm thinking about my uncle who, he had a pain in his stomach for months, like a very bad pain. Never got it checked out. Ended up being stomach cancer, you know. By the time he found it, no, he passed.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, he passed. So, you know.
That's an all too familiar reality for our families. And it wasn't always the case for women that we were going regularly. It was because of the awareness and the widespread conversation, the familiarity of the conversation that made the difference and made it commonplace that, hey, you know, that's just what we do. And so there is still a great need for you to work with awareness, but especially with 40 and under, because, you know, typically, hey, we're invincible anyway. So you got on your Captain America shirt today. That's right. So share a little bit about your superhero origin story and how not only did you come to be a great producer, a little bit about your background there, but also how you discovered and have been victorious with cancer for yourself.
Well, on the music side, I've been in the entertainment business. I'll be 42 this weekend.
Nobody would believe it. You got to pull out a card.
Right. So, I was on the way over here, I was thinking about this. So my oldest daughter is 20. And I got in this business just before she was born. So about 21 years ago, I got in the business. My first gig in this business was working with Keith Sweat down in Atlanta.
And he's still hanging.
he's killing it. And
Go, Keith.
Keith out there making that money.
That's right.
I'm not mad at Keith. You know, but that was kind of like my intro into the business, was working with him. And I mean, I've been fortunate to have been in this business that long and still, you know, make a living. I mean, this is what I do. I don't have a 9 to 5. I've been doing this for, you know, all my adult life. So,
right. And not a 9 to 5. You're still not. It's work, but it's also your passion. So
yeah, it's certainly more work than probably the average 9 to 5 because, you know, I work for myself, and if I don't make it happen, then we don't eat at home, you know.
See? Right.
So it's a little different when you know you don't have a check coming every 2 weeks from an employer. But yeah, it's, you know, to fast forward throughout the years, 2006, I was working with Bone Thugs and Harmony and Swiss Beats on this album they did for Interscope during my Interscope stint, and was out in L.A. in the studio, you know, doing like 12 hours a day for 2 months, just like round the clock, crazy hours. And, you know, I was kind of worn out, you know, I was tired. But one day my knee started hurting, right? And these weird pains in my knee. And I thought it was just like an old sports injury because I played football and ran track in high school and all that. So, my doctor told me way back when that I may have arthritis when I get older because of the damage I had to my knees. So I was thinking, wow, is it that time?
Yeah, right.
In my early 30s,
Right.
So I started popping pain pills and wasn't doing any good. And one day the pain got so bad, I told my partner, I said, hey, man, run me over to the hospital. Let's get this checked out. I went to UCLA. They ran some tests, x-rays or whatnot. And they didn't find anything wrong. So they gave me some more pain medicine and was like, it's probably, what do they call it, bursitis.
Yeah.
So they gave me some pain meds. Went back to the hotel, popping pain meds, back to the studio the next day. And, nothing was effective. And they gave me some strong stuff, but it wasn't working. So a couple of days go by. I went to another hospital in Burbank to see if I can get a different opinion.
That's right.
Doctor ran some more tests, didn't find anything wrong. So he comes out with this big old needle, right? And he was like, I'm going to give you this shot. And you won't feel any pain for months after you take this shot. And I was like, hold up, that doesn't sound right.
Right.
Exactly. So I opted to not take that shot.
Good for you.
And you'll see why that was a good idea in a minute. But anyway, fast forward a couple of weeks, I'm back in St. Louis now on a break. And I was at home one day and the pain had got like 10 times worse. And this particular day, it was like my knee was on fire. So I called my father. I said, hey, man, you got to come and pick me up from my house. My wife and kids were gone at the park or something like that. I said, man, come to the house and pick me up and take me to the hospital. So he comes by. We go to the hospital. And I told the doctor, I said, listen, I was in L.A. They ran this kind of test and that kind of test. Didn't find anything wrong. Is there any other kind of test you can run, to get to the bottom of this? So eventually they did a MRI. And they found it was a tumor, like lodged in between the joints, like right by the kneecap. It was kind of, tucked off, kind of hidden.
Yeah.
Something you wouldn't see with a regular X-ray.
Exactly.
And he was like, we got to biopsy that. There's a slight chance it could be cancerous. Probably not. You're healthy. Probably not. But let's be on the safe side. And they biopsied it the next day, and it was cancer. It was lymphoma.
Exactly. Now, someone might ask or not understand, well, how do you get cancer in your knee? Now, your lymphatic system is your excretories. It's kind of like your sewage management system of your body. For anybody that can understand, if you went down into your basement and it was backed up, and there's all this gook, you realize that, okay, I've got a problem. Your lymphatic system is that sewage removal system. However, unlike our heart, it does not have a pump.
Right.
So our heart, which pumps blood and keeps our circulation going that way, the only way to remove toxins in our bodies is activity, movement is how the lymphatic system removes waste.
Right.
And those are places like under your armpits, and you'll often know that if there's a node or lump found, breast cancer typically will happen in those places.
Right.
So under the knees is another place. You have some here under your throat.
In your groin.
Yes. So those are all key places. So it's not unheard of for it to be there, but just a little something for our listeners to understand that your lymphatic system has nodes in these places, and that would be a key place that could happen there, right there in your knee.
Now, the doctor that I went to said it wasn't something that he saw often where it would manifest in the knee.
Exactly.
So it was unique in a sense that it doesn't happen all the time. But
well, you're special.
It was right. It wasn't knee cancer. It was lymphoma that manifested itself in my knee area.
Great point of clarification.
And so, when you think about the doctor in California who wanted to give me that shot, this is September 2006 when all this transpired. So, I probably wouldn't have felt any pain, until Christmas.
How about that? Right.
So you got all this time where this thing would have been growing out of control. Exactly. So, and that was just God speaking to me like,
powerful. Yes.
Don't take that shot.
I trust that Holy Spirit. But, you think about that. If you're not going to feel pain for months, literal months, how that would affect other systems in your body.
Right.
If I can't feel pain, then what other things would I not feel?
Right.
What other emotions or signals? Because I know that we've come, like you said, I thought it was just some old sports injury.
Right.
We've come to tolerate certain things and ailments as normal. And so they become a part. But there are warning signals.
Yeah.
They are the things to help us understand there's something going on.
But think about the blessing that there was, because you know, you can have a tumor growing in other areas of your body and not feel it at all.
Oh, yes.
You know, but it was right there in that joint. So every single time I moved my knee, I felt it. So I was forced to go. I mean, because this pain was like getting hit with a baseball bat. It was that bad. It was extreme pain.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was popping big time pain pills, like all the big drugs, and none of that stuff was working. I was like, it's something wrong.
It is. It's got to be.
So I was forced to go and get that checked out. I was forced to push the doctors further to make sure, you know, because they kept writing it off as other stuff.
Right. And give you something else to deal with the symptom. But that's how God will do it, won't he?
Yeah.
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 But you know this even more personally, but continue on how then you came to discover how to get over it, what to do about it, and how that connects us to today.
So let me just give you a little history. So my family's been plagued by cancer. I lost my mother most recently to lung cancer in 2012. She got sick after I got sick. I mean, she was my biggest champion next to my wife when I was, you know, going through my battle. But I also lost a grandmother. I lost several aunts, several uncles, some cousins. Like, we lost over a dozen people in my family to various cancers, lung, you know, leukemia, lymphoma. Jesus. So, you know, when I got sick, I didn't think initially that, okay, this is the thing that's going to take me out.
So you're talking about getting sick. So we went beyond the pain and it got worse. Something else manifested?
Well, I mean, sick meaning I had cancer.
Okay, yes, yes. So I was wondering if there were any more.
Well, I mean, I couldn't walk for 9 months.
That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, my knee grew to the size of a small watermelon.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, my knee was so huge, it was spooky to look at.
Yeah.
You know, it was the size of my head. It was huge. So I was literally on crutches. I couldn't walk without crutches for about 9 months.
My God.
And there was a doctor in San Francisco who was like the number 6 oncologist in the country who wanted to cut my leg off.
Amputate.
Yeah, he wanted to cut my leg off. You know, once I got sick, once I knew I was sick, I started bouncing around the country.
Right, what do I need to do?
Because I had some means at the time, so I was going around getting all kind of opinions. So I went to go see him because he was this authority.
Highly ranked, right. And see somebody in that position, and let that be a lesson for our listeners too. A high-ranking physician, you would tend to take what he say as that's the final answer.
Right. If you believe that that's your fate. I didn't believe that was my fate. I didn't believe I was supposed to lose my leg. I felt like it was 2006 at the time. Certainly we've come a lot further than that barbaric method of cutting my leg off. It was funny. I'm in his office, so he's measuring. Now I was high as a kite. Like, by this time I'm taking like everything that they could give me. So I'm in there like floating. And he's measuring my leg and writing stuff down and going to his little board and writing stuff down. And I'm like, what is he doing? And so then he breaks out this little pamphlet, you know, with these artificial legs showing me all the advancements. And I looked at my cousin. I said, are you talking about cutting off my leg?
Right, right.
And I said, excuse me, sir, let me talk to my cousin for a minute. So he stepped out. I said, hey, hand me my crutches. She said, what's up? I'm going back to St. Louis. Man, it's crazy.
That's right. That's right.
You know?
Now, see, that's the thing, because, and I know that there's a generation of our elders, and there's several generations of us that believe that they know better about our bodies and us than we do. And so thank goodness for you having a consciousness like, no, it does not have to be this way. And that is not the final say. And this is not what I want for my body.
It was tough to swallow when he said it. I mean, that was the first time that it was the second time. I cried when I first found out, like, wow, I got cancer.
Sure.
And so this is the second time that I cried because I was like, wow, you know, this is crazy, you know. But my goal was to find other ways to treat it. So what I did was I was fortunate enough I had a cousin who was in alternative medicine. She was actually in med school, traditional med school at UC Berkeley, but she also practiced alternative medicine on the side. And I had an aunt who was sick years before that, not with cancer, but with a bunch of other stuff, on her deathbed. And my cousin brought her back from death, basically. And we watched her go from that to going back to college and getting back on her feet. Wow. So I saw the effects of alternative medicine. So I was like, can we try something with this? And she was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. So we went through this whole regimen out in California for like a month.
Share a little bit about what you incorporated.
Well, there's a lot of natural remedies, a lot of natural herbs and supplements and, cleanses. And, this was like in October, about a month after I got sick. Now, mind you, when I first got diagnosed, Barnes was like, hey, we got to go straight into chemo,
immediately.
Radiation. I decided to not do that against my family's best wishes.
Right.
I went to California. I was out there for a month. And then my cousin got me in contact with this lady. She was a genius, Dr. Holder Clark. She wrote the book, The Cure for All Diseases, which has probably sold 100 million copies worldwide. And depending on who you talk to about Dr. Clark, she's either a quack or she was a genius. And she treated me personally in Mexico, and I can tell you she was a genius.
Yeah.
The stuff she was doing was, what I would do, I would ask doctors, how did I get cancer? Like I asked the doctor in LA, I'd ask the doctor in Frisco, I asked the doctor at SLU and Barnes. I would say, I'm young, I'm healthy, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, I work out, how did I get cancer? And they would always, they would kind of blow it off like it just happened.
Right.
There's no way to really explain how you get cancer. It just, things just happen. And I was like, well, the whole conversation is an exact science until I ask that question. Then it's all like, well, it just happens.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I asked Dr. Clark, I said, listen, I'm going to ask you one question, and how you answer this question to determine if I stay in Mexico or not. And so I was like, how did I get cancer? And she said, how much time do you have?
Wow.
And she got to writing on this chalkboard. She was an old lady, like 88 years old when I met her, an old dusty lab coat. She was from, I think, Germany or something originally. Everything from the water supply to the foods we eat to the products we use on our body, the processed food, the steroids.
Yes.
And it was the first time I got an answer that made some kind of sense.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I jumped into her treatment. September when I got diagnosed, I'm down there with her through the holiday season. I didn't see a conventional doctor till almost Valentine's Day the following year. And my doctor at Barnes was like, man, you should be sick. Like, where have you been all these months? You should be dying, Now, mind you, I lost some weight and I'm still on crutches, but I made a promise to my family that I would do some conventional medicine. So I did go and I tried chemo. They had me scheduled for like 8 bouts of chemo. I got to my 4th bout and I was like, I can't finish, because they would give you one every 21 days. And I would be sick for like 19 of those days. On the 20th day, I'm feeling all right. And then I'm back on the 21st day getting some more chemo. So when I got to the 4th one, I was sick as a dog. I was throwing up like crazy. I called my doctor and said, man, I'm done.
That's right.
I can't do anymore. And he was like, well, I can't promise you're going to live,
Right. Of course. Well, we got to tell you that.
And I was like, well, I prayed about it. So let's hope it's gone.
Yeah.
And then that was it. That was the summer of 2007. So
and here you're still here to tell the story.
Yeah.
Have you been back to get any scans to see what your progress or?
I was going every 6 months.
Obviously, you're walking. You got your knee back.
I got my leg. Now, there was some damage done to my knee. The tumor ate up my knee. So I can't play basketball. I can't ride a bike or run. But, when I walk, you can't tell there's anything wrong with my knee.
You get to go play with your babies.
Yeah, so it's still mine. The same one I came to this world with.
That's right.
But 2011, I think it was, I decided to have a party. I was just happy to be alive.
That's right.
That was the reason. And I had a party. I called it I'm a Survivor.
Yes.
And I told folks we're all white. And I think we had the American Cancer Society on board just to do some donations or something. Nothing official. I had no grandiose idea about starting some foundation. But the strange thing is at the party, folks were going up and grabbing the microphone and was like, giving testimonies, just impromptu testimonies. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. Wasn't planning on this. And there was one girl I went to high school with. I had no idea she had cancer, and she got up there and started crying and thanked me for having this event. And she had just beat breast cancer. I'm like, man, I didn't know you had breast cancer. And then after the event, folks were like inboxing me on Facebook or shooting me emails, like, when is the next one?
Exactly.
I'm like, man, that was it. That was it. This wasn't the only time I was doing this.
Right,
but
right.
I saw the need for it. And so we brought it back the following year. And then, now we're in our 4th year.
It is so exciting. And what makes it even more spectacular, because yes, it is a celebration of survivorship, but it's in such a way it's not like some pity party or sad case of lament.
Right. No,
it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's swaggerish. Yeah. It's got flavor.
Yeah, it's still high.
You can go have a good time,
nice,
but why not?
Yes. But we're also giving people information. We got the amazing Dr. Rosa Kincaid speaking.
Oh, she'll be great. And you've had our very own Sean Stevenson in
Sean Stevenson in the past, who was amazing.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
And so just to have that balance, because we'll have some conventional thinkers in the house, we'll have some conventional wisdom in the house, but we'll also have some alternative wisdom in the house, because I did a combination of the two.
Excellent.
And folks will have some resources. The Department of Health will be there. We do free PSA tests for the men.
Yes.
I think we actually broke a record in 2013 with PSA tests we did.
And who would have believed that? Because that's one of the challenges with this awareness piece, is that, folks are afraid to test or too concerned. You broke a record.
But they saw me doing it. So, like I did it, and then DJ Cuddy over at Hot did it, and then they saw Nico Smith taking a test, and different folks who were there. They saw maybe Murphy Lee or whoever. They saw people that look like them going and getting tested.
Right. That's right.
And it's on the spot. It's non-invasive. It's real quick. The cool thing, the retention part, was the following week, folks got their results and they started posting them on social media.
That's hot.
And then tagging me. And thank God.
I bet they were so thankful.
Yeah. Nobody, had any trouble spots. So,
but even if they did, what a service you did to bring them aware at a point where they could do something about it.
Right.
So that is phenomenal.
Right.
You got to send out the invitation. I love hearing your story. It never gets old.
Yeah.
I love it when you tell it every single time.
Yeah.
And
one day I'm going to tell the whole thing. It's about 3 hours.
I was just going to say, because there's more. There's even, and I'd like to be there. Matter of fact, you better call me so that I could be a part of that. But there are so many levels to it that I do get something new and draw something from it every time, every single time. And this would never get old to me. I value this. Our company values it. We've got Sister Strut coming up in October, but please do send out the invitation. Let everybody know about this year's All White Affair.
So the 4th annual I'm a Survivor All White Cancer Gala is the official name. It's Sunday, June 14th at Union Station. The good folks at Union Station, the O'Loughlin family, are one of our main sponsors. They're hosting the event for us. And the doors for general admission are at 7, but there's a VIP reception hour that starts at 6. So, and that's during the time where the VIP ticket holders can come in and kind of just mingle. There's, free hors d'oeuvres and drinks and gift bags and stuff like that. And, there's a number of things going on throughout the night.
It's a very entertaining night, but
I can't give it away.
All right.
But it's, there's some, good stuff going on.
Absolutely.
A lot of informational pieces, but also some entertainment pieces. It's a good time. There's no age per se. I won't say there's an age limit, but folks will be there in their 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s.
That's right. That's right.
The unique thing about the event, though, in the past, it's one of the few events that really bring awareness to cancer as a whole, not breast, not, lymphoma, not prostate. Everybody's under the roof at the same time.
Yes. And
we've also given a platform for multiple cancer organizations who aren't in the same building at the same time. So Susan G's folks may be there, and then American Cancer Society, but Sister Strut comes out. Melvi Shaheed on the prostate piece, they always come out. So, it's not a breast cancer event.
Cancer
It's
bias.
just a cancer event.
That's right. Cancer has no bias when it takes on, and you know this personally through your family. God bless you for this, man. You can get more information at survivororg.com, or survivor2015.eventbrite.com. Of course, you can email your questions as well as, share some of your testimonies and victories and resources with us at survivorstl@gmail.com. Orlando Watson, and pretty boy survivor. Man, I love this. I appreciate being a part of it and for having me on board, but more especially for continuing on in this effort.
I appreciate it. I'm glad you guys are on board, and thank you for all the support that the station always gives.
Yep. RareGem too.
Okay.
Shouts out to RareGem.
Yes.
Is there anything that you want to be sure that anybody that's facing a diagnosis, going through, that you want to be sure that they know that you understand from your heart?
You know, the main thing is don't give up, you know, and don't look at cancer as an immediate death sentence. Yes, it can kill you. You know, it can kill you. Being proactive about it and thinking outside the box really helps. If you're not going to do conventional treatment, you're not going to do alternative treatment. There are a number of things out there you can try. The stem cell research has gotten really, really big. The Cedars-Sinai Hospital out in L.A. has some really advanced stem cell treatments for cancers that don't really respond well to chemo and radiation. I would look into stuff like that. I mean, I get people calling me all the time about what to do. I'm not a doctor. So, but I know a lot of information. I know a lot of different doctors around the country. There are doctors in other parts of the world who have advanced methods of treating cancer as well, in Russia, and Germany, and France. I know it's not easy to get to these places, but, you know, for me, I was fighting for my life. So I tried everything that I possibly could because I had 4 kids and a wife, and, you know, I couldn't check out.
And a whole life in front of you. And a whole life in front of you. That you're young, 43, there's a lot more living to live. And with this, a lot more love to give. So I appreciate that. So keep fighting for your life, loved ones.
Yes.
And we're here to support and encourage you. Save the date. It is Sunday, June 14th. All right, that's it for this week. If you have questions or comments or have something you'd like to submit for the community calendar, you can leave a message on a message box at 333-8369, 333-8369. And for more information about today's show or any of our guests, visit us online at 1003thebeat.com. Look for us next week at 7 o'clock and each Saturday, the all-new Community Connection on 100.3 The Beat. Throwback hip-hop and R&B. I'm Jade Harrell. Be blessed, do blessed, and bless the Lord.